Hi there, it's Elizabeth, and I wanted to come on and show you just some of the things that I use to create my Fauxbonichis. I've had some questions about what I use and how I make them. I tend to do things on the cheap. I try to as much as I possibly can. If I do have any types of supplies that are, more of an investment or more expensive, then I usually save those for like birthdays, holidays, things like that. Generally go out, I don't generally go out of the house. So, yeah, I don't frequent the craft stores. I don't order online very much. So I just kind of make a wish list, and then on a holiday or birthday or something like that is when I order things to use in my books. So let's just get started. I use altered composition books. I get them, pretty much from anywhere. My husband picks them up at the grocery store for me. Typically, though, I really like Staples brand, and they are gridded. Now, my husband went out and purchased me a few from the grocery store, so I'm going to use what I have because, again, I try not to spend a lot of money on, anything really, but on these. And I've said before in past videos that I use alter composition books because I never knew when I first started on this whole Fauxbonichi thing, I didn't know if I was going to be consistent with it. So I didn't want to go out and buy, the special book or anything like that. And just a little tidbit on that, there is no special book. A Fauxbonichi is any book you want it to be. Some people, like me, use alter composition books. Some people use Midori inserts. Some people make their own Midori inserts. Some people use the Miguel Ruiz book, but I have to tell you, from all that I've heard about the Miguel Ruiz books, the spine is glued, and you put a lot of stuff in it. If you do, tape or glue or whatever, a bunch of stuff in it, the spine is gonna break on you. So there's just a little tidbit that I've heard. I've never owned a Miguel Ruiz, but that's what I've heard about them. Some people use Moleskines. Some people just use regular journals that they find, wherever they find them. And so, yeah, it doesn't matter what kind of book you have. Just pick a book and use it. So there have also been a lot of questions, and I am by no means an expert on this at all. I just started doing this, just even heard about it this past year, but I've had a lot of fun doing it. And if you don't know or haven't watched my channel, there is a group called Fauxbonichi Journalers on Facebook that I got involved with back in January and started doing this type of journaling. And the Fauxbonichi type of journaling is just basically an illustrated journal. It's a way to document your life, document what goes on. On the group itself, they do provide different prompts and stuff like that if you want to use them. But I've said that in numerous videos. So this video in particular is how I make my books and how I go about doing it on the cheap for the most part. I don't really use that many like special, supplies or anything like that. So basically, and especially for the newbies who've like never done this before and don't know where to begin, there are like a few things that I would call necessary. Okay. You need some kind of a journal, any kind of journal. It doesn't matter what the journal is. You can use loose leaf paper and a binder if that's what you want to do. So you need something to write on, and you need something to write with. So really, there are only two necessary items or supplies that you need. If you want to go into making it pretty and all that kind of stuff, then you can do that, obviously. But yeah, you basically need a writing instrument and a book. That's it. So mine start out as composition books. Again, I like the staple gridded, but my husband bought me these because he happened to be out and thinking about me, and so I'm going to use what I have. So they start out like this. They have 100 sheets in them, 200 pages. And what I do, and why I like these, and I've said before, is because I can decorate the covers my own way. I also glue the pages together, 3 pages together, with a regular glue stick, and I'll show you that right now. So, sorry about that, I just threw it. Anyway, so this one right here is the book, my Fauxboing that I'm preparing for September, October. And the way that I did this cover was inspired by the lovely Cat Hand right here on YouTube. And I will link her channel and the tutorial for doing this so that I don't, go into all of that. And she has wonderful videos, and she's a wonderful artist. So I love watching her videos. So I'll link her below if you're interested in how to do this type of cover. So I decorate the covers on the inside here, which, still I'm preparing the book. So what I do is I take 3 pages and glue them together. I put a sheet of wax paper here so that the glue doesn't stick to anything else. But so I glue the 3 pages together, and I use a plain old glue stick. This happens to be from Office Max, but I've used just about every kind of glue stick you can imagine. It works, whatever. I don't care what brand it is, it works. Of course, there are people out there that, that swear by certain glue sticks, and that's fine. If you have a glue stick that works, well for you, then use it, whatever. But I'm just telling you what I do. And again, I am no expert. I'm not an artist. I'm not a professional. I don't play one on TV. So I just wanted to come on here because I've had some questions, and I just wanted to show you kind of what I do and how I do it. To give you some ideas if you're a newbie in it and want to get involved in it. So anyhow, I glue the 3 pages together, and it makes them kind of, a little more stiff, and it prevents bleed through. So once I go through and I glue all 3 pages together, and then, within each grouping, I put the wax paper, and then once I've glued it, I use my brayer that I've had, for a while, but I use my brayer to smooth everything out. If you don't have a brayer, no need to worry. You can always just use a card, like a hard card. This happens to be a towel card, but yeah, you can just get a card and smooth them out. And then what I do is I then lay the book flat. After I've glued the 3 pages together, I lay the book flat, and I put a stack, a couple books, heavy books on top, just to weigh it down to kind of get out most of the air bubbles. Now see down here on some of these pages, there are some air bubbles. I don't know if you can see it, but the paper's a little bit wrinkly. Not that big of a deal to me. I really don't care. But so yeah, I go through and I glue the 3 pages together throughout the entire book. Oh, see there, I need to add a little bit more glue, but no big deal. I'll do that later. And if I don't get to it, it's no big deal either, because who cares? I don't. So I do that through the whole book. And yes, it's an arduous task, and it takes me about a week to get through this entire book to glue all the pages together. So like if you can see right there, these top parts are the ones that I've glued together, and I still have all of this here to glue together. So, and I only do like 2 or 3 sets a day until I get the whole book done. So yeah, it takes me a bit. Then what I do is, because I have some washi tape that, as a lot of us crafters do, we have washi tape that can be used up. So this is the book that I'm working in now, and so once I get the pages glued together, I then take the washi tape and I put it on the, the edges, just as a decoration and to use up my washi, because let's face it, what else am I going to do with it? So that's how I put my book together. This is the book I'm currently using. All I did was took a calendar sheet that I happen to like and Mod Podged it on. You can find Mod Podge in these little things depending on how much you use. But I get them for $1 at the Dollar Tree. So I don't Mod Podge the top because it tends to get sticky. So, but I use it as a glue because it really glues it down. Better than a glue stick or, something else. And you can use a little bit more wet glue on the covers of the books because they're, thicker. So I would not use this on the pages, or I would not use any type of wet glue on the pages if you're going to glue them together to prevent bleed through. So there's that bit. Okay, so then I'll keep this here in case I need to refer to it. So I wanted to go into a couple of the things that I use on the cheap in my book. When I first started out, of course, I started out, earlier in my days doing like mini albums and scrapbooking stuff and things like that. So I have, some supplies. But for the purposes of this book, basically, the main supplies I use in here are pens, markers, clip art, and occasionally I paint in them, but not very often. Excuse me. So, in my bag of goodies, which isn't here on my bed, but I do have a travel bag that I use that I keep all this stuff in. And anyway, that's a different story. But this is one of my pen bags that I use, that I carry some things in. And there are various pens. So instead of going through every last little pen in here, I'll just go through the ones that I use frequently. So obviously, I use a mechanical pencil, and I just get these wherever I can. You can get them at the dollar store, I believe. So yeah, mechanical pencil. I also use an eraser. I keep an eraser with me, which the one that I use is sorry about the glare, is the Pentel, which I really like it because it erases very cleanly, meaning it doesn't leave a trace of the pencil behind. It doesn't rub the paper off, because I use a pencil quite a lot. I trace my letterings first, or I drop my letterings in pencil first, because of shaky hands that I have. So yeah, I like to use pencil first, then go over it in pen, then I erase the pencil marks. So I always use an eraser. The pens I probably use most frequently. When I first started out, I used Sharpies. Just regular Sharpies. And these are ultra fine point. You can find them at the grocery store. My husband picks them up. They come in like a 2-pack or whatever, fairly inexpensive. So, but they are alcohol markers, so they will bleed. Hence the reason I glue 3 pages together. So I never have a problem with bleed through once I've glued the 3 pages together. So typically when I first started out, I used a lot of Sharpie. To give an example really quickly, at the top of my book there, where my header is, all of that is in Sharpie. Okay. This is another type of Sharpie that I did have to get and like search for, and this is the extra fine point. Now this one here is the ultra fine point, and so let me show you the tip here, like a beauty guru. See if you can see. Can you see that tip? I don't even know. It's a really fine tip. Oh, let me see if I could show you on this paper here. Can you see that? Where are we? There you go. Okay, so that's the tip of that one. Very, very fine. Then when I got into Llama's love lettering, she suggested this Sharpie, which is the extra fine, not ultra fine. And this has a very different point on it, if you can see. See the tip on that? Now, this one it is a thicker line when you use them, but I do like them. And again, because I glue 3 pages together, it doesn't bleed through. Because again, Sharpies are alcohol markers. Then, once I got into this more, doing the Fauxboing, I decided, you know what, I would like micron pens. So, I did get a pack of micron pens. These are more expensive. And you can't pick them up at the grocery store. So you have to go to a craft store or order them online. And they are a little bit more expensive. And this is one of the purchases I, had for like a birthday or something like that. Again, I do not frequent craft stores, so and I rarely purchase online unless it's a holiday or a birthday gift. So yeah, this was one of my gifts. And they come in a pack. You can get them individually, or they come in a pack starting with 005 tip, and they go all the way up to 08 tip, which is more like a Sharpie kind of tip. And so this is an 05. Let's see. So there. It's about the thickness of a ultrafine Sharpie. Okay, so but basically, I mean, they're just like Sharpies. The only difference, I think, this is archival ink for one, whereas Sharpie is not. I don't think it's It doesn't say archival. It just says permanent ink. So I'm not really sure. I'm not a pen expert, but this says archival ink on it. So, and the only difference between these and Sharpies, in my opinion, again, this is all just my opinion, is that there are different size points, a lot more different size points. You can get different points in the Sharpies, but you get more sizes in the microns. So you get like really ultra thin, which are good for like Zentangling, if you do Zentangling, things like that, and you want thinner lines. So those are helpful, not necessary, but they're fun to have if you want to go that route. These are Sharpies as well. They have a very fine tip as well, very fine. And that's the tip on that, if you can see it. Very thin. Obviously, you're not going to color anything in with this. I use them for outlining, I use them for writing, and these are the no bleed, so they do not bleed through your paper. And then occasionally, if I'm feeling, happy, no, I'm just kidding. If I'm feeling, like I need a little sparkle in my life. Oh, there's a hair on that. That's gross. Then I use, glitter pens or whatever. So there are so many different pens out there that you can use. But basically, any kind of pen, if you want a Fauxboing, you can use any kind of pen. Then one of the other types of pens, before I get into that, I also use these, which are fairly inexpensive, and you can find them at sometimes the grocery store, but other times you can find them at like the office supply store. And they're fairly inexpensive, especially if you have a coupon or you get them on sale, which I always try to do. And these are felt tip pens, and I use them for writing, I use them for outlining. I don't use them really for coloring in things unless I do like a tangle or a dangle and I want to color in small areas, then these work fine. So I use those, and those are fairly inexpensive. Now, getting into some other things that are a little bit more expensive, I'll show you right now. Again, totally not necessary, but fun to have. And you could totally Fauxboing without this stuff, but I'm just showing you what I use. So one of the things that I use is Posca markers, and I would say this is one of my better investments that I made because I love them to pieces. They have like a ball or whatever in them that you shake them up, and there's paint in there. And then the tip, is like a marker kind of thing, like that thick. And then along with those, I use these in my journal to do like headlines, to write in, pretty lettering. And then I outline it, and I'll show you the different things, when I open the book and show you. But so these are the thick ones. And I don't know, everything's like in Japan or Japanese, whatever you say it. And it tells you like the color of it. And it says PC5M on it. Don't know what that means, and it's bullet shaped. And yeah. Oh no, it's not in Japanese. But anyway, And then I also have this here, this box of 15 Posca markers. Now these markers are a thinner nib. So, and let me get my paper here. And so that's that one. Okay, so I can show you them both up close if I can do this. See, fat on the bottom, thin on the top. Okay, so there are the different nib sizes. And again, this is was another gift from my children. And I love them. It is definitely one of the, more expensive investments that I made, but I will definitely buy those again. I love them. I love them. The only thing is when you're using them with the composition books is that if you continue to go over it and over it, it will pill the paper. So just a warning about that. But if you use a light hand and they work fine, and I really like them a lot. I'll show you some examples in my book in a second. And then another thing that I use, and this was a larger purchase, are my colored pencils, which I just keep in here. And these are Prismacolors. Okay. And they are, everything's upside down. They are beautiful. And they are nice and creamy, and I do like them. However, will I purchase them again? Probably not. And here's my honest reason why. Because when I first started out in the Fauxboing, I used what I had, and that was Crayola. And they worked fine for my use. I'm not a card maker. I'm not a professional card maker. I'm not a professional at anything. But I do enjoy coloring. And in my Fauxboing, I usually just color like the background. So for the purposes of, how I use them, I don't need something as nice as Prismacolors. Now, if you enjoy coloring like Zentangles, if you enjoy coloring stamps or flower stamps, or you want to get into blending your pencils with a blending stump, things like that, doing a little more artistic things, then absolutely, I suggest the Prismacolors. They're wonderful. But, and I do love them, and I'm going to use them. Just for my purposes, I prefer the Crayola. I think they work fine, and they're cheaper, and that's my thought on that. Then the next thing that I sometimes use, and is a bigger purchase, are, and I save this for a present as well, are the Derwent Inktense. Now, Inktense pencils, these are water-soluble ink pencils, and they come in beautiful colors, and I use them at times to do a little bit of watercoloring in my book, and they work very well. I really do enjoy using them. Will I purchase them again? No. Only because these will probably, I don't use them all the time. I use them sometimes, and they will probably still, let me open them up. They'll probably last me a lifetime. So there they are in all their glory. And I use them for washes on my pages. I use them for stenciling in my pages. I use them if I want to do a watercolor in my pages. I use them for that. So those are some of the things that I use regularly. All the other stuff, the stickers, the scrapbook paper, all that kind of stuff, I have just in my stash, so I use that occasionally. And I'll tell you as well, a lot of times I use clip art. I don't really care to draw in my book all that much. If it strikes my fancy and I feel like doing it, then I do it. But I don't, not very often. So a lot of times I print a lot of stuff out, and yeah. So lately I've been, you guessed it, in a funk. So yeah, so that's going in the book. And then here are 5 ways to get out of my funk. So those, I'm going to write those in my book. And then I just, I go through and print things out that I want to put in my book. So I do that. Now, in here, I'll just show you very briefly See on the sides, I use the washi tape, okay? The backgrounds of all these, the color, the orange, blue, orange, the yellow up there, all that's done in Prismacolor, but could easily be done in Crayola. You don't need Prismacolor unless you really want them. It's your choice. Here is examples of clip art that I have used in my book because I'm not very big on drawing. This here is Micron pen. This here is Flair pen. This over here is the Posca thin markers with Flair outlining them. This is Posca with Flair outlining them. So you can get a really thin line with the thinner Posca markers. This right here is Flair pen, clip art. A picture that I printed off from my daughter. This page here is Inktense used on a baby wipe and smeared onto a honeycomb stencil. So that's how I did that background. The lettering up here is Flair pen. This little flourish thingy babobber or whatever is Flair pen. Again, the headers up on the top are all done in either Micron or Sharpie, one or the other. More clip art. This right here is the thick Posca pen. Let's see. This is, Micron. This is a glitter pen. Glitter pen up there. This is all done in Flair. This is done with thin Posca marker with outlining in Micron. This is done with Posca pen or Posca marker, paint marker with outlining in pen. This is done with Posca marker with outlining in either Sharpie or whatever. This is just collage, so sometimes I just use bits and pieces that I've collected over time and from magazines, and I just glue those in. These are just, stickers from my stash that I happen to have. This I think I wrote in, I actually wrote it in Flair and then outlined it in a regular highlighter, pink highlighter. So there's so many different things that you can use in your book and really do it on the cheap. And it is a process, of course, as you get into it and you see if you enjoy it, see if you like this way of journaling, then of course, you can add to your collection as you go. Like I said, I do not go out and purchase a bunch of stuff. I don't typically do hauls. I don't typically order online. The only time I really do that sort of thing is if I've gotten a gift, from somebody. If I've gotten a gift card or, if a birthday rolls around, then, generally my kids know and my husband knows that, I'm going to want art supplies or whatever. So I save up that stuff and I get it then. If I do happen to be out, I always look at dollar spots. I always purchase from dollar spots or the Dollar Tree or whatever if I happen to be out, because I just don't like spending a lot of money on stuff like this. I mean, not that I don't like spending a lot of money on stuff like this. What I'm saying is that I don't think it's necessary to spend a lot of money to have a lot of supplies to do this type of journaling. That's what I'm saying. It's fun either way, and you don't need a whole bunch of stuff. Even though it might look like I have a whole bunch of stuff on here, these are things that I've collected over the years. But basically, if you have a book and a pen, you're good to go. So I hope that helped you out. I'm sorry if it was very long. I hope that it gave some of you some ideas on how to do your own Fauxbonichi and make your own Fauxbonichi on the cheap. And yeah, so I hope you have fun with it. And I hope this was helpful. And I will catch you the next time, and it'll probably be on a flip. Have a great day. Thanks.